Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the OK Grognard Show. This is Wednesday, June 24th, 2020, 9:30 a.m. Central in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Today is the 100th episode of the OK Grognard Show. Now, I have recently posted about this very thing, so let me just read what I wrote there. Today marks the 100th stream of the OK Grognard Show. I started on what would have been the Thursday of GaryCon 12, 2 days after Lake Geneva Games was closed temporarily, and I was laid off. It has improved since then, but it is far from a perfect slice of entertainment. There we go. It has improved since then, but is far from a perfect slice of entertainment. Well, there you go. Case in point, right? What started as a daily 10:30 a.m. show with no time limit has since become a daily 9:30 a.m. show, which comes in closer to a half hour each day, streaming at Central Time from beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. I've done a few extra shows on some of the given days, which is why we're at 100 rather than 90-ish, 90 plus-ish. Who knew that when this fine young man was so long ago putting this show together, he would someday become the person you see here. 90 days later. It's been almost exactly 3 months, right? Because March 24th would have been that Tuesday. Yeah. Monday was our last day. That's when we put the signs on the door that we were closed. We had struggled for a couple of weeks with trying to socially distance ourselves while gaming, keeping the space limited in use to the point where we were not allowing any more than 6 people in each of the rooms at Lake Geneva Games. And we were discovering quite quickly that that doesn't work. That doesn't work at all. Lake Geneva Games' business model is about running tournaments and people gaming together. Sure, we sell stuff, and that's supposed to support the game space. The game space is not there. Well, it's symbiotic, right? I mean, the game space is the draw. The retail area is meant to support having that game space. So the two go hand in hand with the business model. And quite frankly, if you can't run tournaments, if you can't have people in the game space playing games, it's just doesn't work. So for the foreseeable future, that game space and Lake Geneva Games will continue to be closed. You want to check out the Badger Bounce Back program on the Wisconsin website. They've got 6 metrics whereby they feel we are or we are not out of the woods, and that is what the owner of Lake Geneva Games has decided as a good way to approach the idea of reopening. So keeping an eye on that. We'll let you know if Lake Geneva's Games is getting close to reopening. It's not going anywhere. It's coming back. The 4 years I've been there as manager and working closely with Jason as the owner has shown us that the game store is a lot more resilient than anyone would expect. Honestly, if we were closed to the end of the year, if we were closed for another 10 months or more and had to use the store space as little more than a kind of glorified storage space until we could safely reopen, that would not be impossible for us to do. So make no mistake, Lake Geneva Games will reopen, but it will reopen when customers and staff can all converge on the place safely, be there for extended lengths of time, playing games, having fun, doing those things that make a game store a great experience. And that's what it's going to take for it to come back open. Sure, you can open the game store, and I don't fault other game stores for doing the curbside thing and doing a lot more online sales and whatever it takes to make sure that they can weather this financially. Um, but that's not the way Lake Geneva Games is set up. Lake Geneva Games isn't just set up as a money maker. It's not set up as a way to make a fortune in the gaming industry. It was always set up as a place where people can come, join one another in a friendly, welcoming atmosphere, and play games together. And of course, uh, make sure that the staff has the kind of expertise and knowledge that can help people make informed, solid choices for getting the most fun out of the time that they have in a busy week, as it is for everybody, even in the best of times, the time that they have to devote to gaming and having fun and spending time with their friends. So I think it's a beautiful thing, actually, that the store is in a position that it can weather something like this. And I think it's also a wonderful thing that we've come to the conclusion that this is the true spirit of what this game store is about. I think it says a lot about Jason and his vision for opening the store nearly 10 years ago. It'll be 10 years this Thanksgiving, this coming Thanksgiving. So hopefully we'll be able to open before then. Hopefully we'll have a big 10-year anniversary bash, gaming bash, and we'll have a lot of fun, and we'll look back on these leaner gaming times and these more troubling, challenging times as times where we showed our true mettle, times where we stood up for what we believed in, did what was important for ourselves and our friends and our community and everybody. Um, but enough about Lake Geneva Games. I think it was worth mentioning because obviously I'm laid off from there as a manager, and obviously the store is closed, and obviously this show comes to you from Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, a place that I moved to very close to 7 years, just over 7 years ago, to sort of semi-retire and enjoy living in the birthplace of gaming, of, well, role-playing games. Well, see, I don't even want to say birthplace of role-playing games. I want to say the birthplace of Dungeons and Dragons, because this is where it was first published. We can debate a lot about who first came up with the idea of role-playing games, who first put it into practice in a significant way, who actually codified rules. There are many ways of approaching many thought exercises for ways to approach that idea. But one thing we know for sure, Lake Geneva, first published Dungeons and Dragons in 1974 right here. So that's what we love. Grail Knight, thanks for being here. Ink Dweller 8, good morning to you as well. Appreciate you popping into the chat. Welcome to the 100th episode of the OK Grognard Show. You're here on an auspicious occasion. Grail Knight, I'm going to add you into the weekly drawing. You've been missing in action for a little while, huh? Were you not around last week at all either? You must be busy. I know everybody's busy to some extent or other from one week to another, so you never know. But I got you in for the next one. Ink Dweller, you are in there as well. Thank you very much for being here. This is the 13th week. This is the 100th episode. This is the Wednesday before Harryhausen Day, which is next Monday. As we know, and let's take a look at, I'm not signing off here, but I do want to discuss a little bit about the schedule. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this. I'm going to pop this back up here. Something I'm doing behind the scenes. Let's see. Here we go. Just doing a couple of things. What do you think of that guy in the inset there? Something else, huh? Quite the feller. Pretty cool. That's the guy who started the OK Grognard show back in March. Good morning, Red Barn. What is up? 100th episode of the OK Grognard show. Taking a look at the weekly schedule. Don't be scared, Red. I'm not signing off. I'm just examining this, kind of looking it over based on this being the 100th show and all, thinking about things that might need to change. You know, I made the adjustments from 10:30 to 9:30. I'm not sure, was it at show 50? I know I made adjustments to what was the content then. Thank you. Thank you on the congratulations. The content prior to this was gaming across the board. We were still streaming some board games, but those were sometimes taking 3-4 hours, which was not pretty. Not a lot of fun to take something like that in. It's tough for some people, pardon the chair squeaks, it's tough for some people just to even watch a demo of a board game if it takes more than 20 minutes or a half hour. And to watch some people fumbling around playing a board game when they don't always know all the rules for 3, sometimes 4 hours. And if you're familiar with the rules and you see a rules mistake early on, that it's just cascading into a horrible miscarriage of gaming justice, then you've got to feel like you've just wasted 3.5, 4 hours. If you're masochistic enough to actually hang on and watch the whole thing. Anyway, so those were the Tuesdays and Fridays that were just taking up so much time. And then, of course, all the other days I was doing hour-plus long shows. But, you know, finding our way and stuff. I think keeping it closer to a half hour and not being worried about maybe going over a little bit, 35, 40 minutes, 45 sometimes, but generally keeping it close to a half hour or right at, I think has worked out pretty well. What do you guys think in the chat? Feel free to throw out some suggestions. The crafting and painting on Thursday. The weekly news and giveaway. Let's talk about that first. So Monday, the giveaway is great. Not doing it on Sunday, but rather doing it on Monday. Good idea. Gives me a day between when it ends on Saturday and gives me a couple of days to get a hold of somebody and make sure that they're good to go. Make sure they're interested in whatever prize it is. Make sure that they accept it because it's something that's given. It needs to be received. So having that extra time before announcing it is good. I think the once a week thing is good. It's a freebie. I don't think anybody complains about what's been given. I had those extra set of dice, those six sets of dice, which were the first 6 weeks of prizes. Prizes? They're not really prizes. They're giveaways, so I don't think we call them prizes in that case. And it's not a raffle. It's not whatever, right? It's just picking someone at random who is a follower of the Twitch stream and who has chimed in over the course of a week. So just making sure I pick somebody that's out there and wants something. Anyway, had those 6 sets of dice. Those were left over. Those were going to be used at GaryCon as prizes for people in games I was running. I had picked those up earlier in the year and set them aside with that intention. And then, of course, GaryCon canceled, and I'm sitting on these 6 sets of dice. And I mean, I love dice. I have lots of them, and I guess I can always use more, but I don't know. It just seemed like, you know what? What a good way to start a show off is to give away 6 sets of dice. And then I have had the patches, a couple of sets of patches from Thaddeus Moore. Those were great prizes for a couple of weeks. I had the Antonio Banderas 13th Warrior DVDs. Those were a treat. You know, because getting season 2 of Conan the Adventurer, I've got an extra season 1 Conan the Adventurer animated series, because to get the season 2 ones at a reasonable price, I had to pick them up as a set with a season 1 DVD, which I actually already had. So I've got an extra one of those I can give away. I just picked up recently the full series of the Legend of Prince Valiant, the complete series, Volume 1 and 2. I had on my DVD shelf. How many episodes is this? 32 plus 33, 65 total episodes in Prince Valiant. So that's in the mix for future Saturdays at some point when we want to switch it around off of Conan and away and not go back to Dungeons and Dragons too soon. Anyway, there was an extra. I don't know if it's an introductory one. I'll have to double check and see what's on it. But there's a 16 episode Prince Valiant DVD that exists that I picked up at a half price bookstore for, I don't know, buck or two, something off of clearance or whatever. It's some of the episodes. Here, let me show this off so it makes sense. So these are Volume 2 and Volume 1. I like the way I saved that after lifting the wrong one first. These are the complete series. This other one, which I have in the other room, so I won't go get it, is 16 episodes, but I'm not sure where they fit in or what they're from. In any event, it might have been an attempt at rebranding it and putting it out in smaller chunks instead of 32 and 33 in 2 DVD packages. But it's out there. It exists, and I have an extra copy of it, so I may just be passing something like that on. But this week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, we'll be looking at these wonderful. Oops, where are we at? Let's see if I can do this right. There we go. 20 million miles to Earth, Mysterious Island, 1 million years BC, the Valley of Guanji, the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, Jason and the Argonauts, the Golden Voyage of Sinbad, Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger, and Clash of the Titans. Now, we're not watching these on this channel. That would be against the rules. I suggest people pick them up, whether you can find them on Netflix or Prime, or pick them up as DVDs somewhere. Some places are starting to open up. There's a good chance most of these are available at typical half-price book stores in their DVD sections. Many of these are well worth getting in your collection. I noted the other day that I picked up the Sinbad collection, these three together, Golden Voyage, Eye of the Tiger, Seventh Voyage, all as one little Harryhausen collection, which is pretty cool. If you see that, snag that. That's fun. The order in which we'll be watching these, by the way, and let's just switch back over to this. Harryhausen Day, June 29th. If you're not signed up on Facebook, then go please do that. Join in just to get the reminder, but not that you need it. The order in which we're going to be checking these out, discussing them during the next 5 days is tomorrow, Thursday, 20 Million Miles to Earth and Mysterious Island will be up for discussion. On Friday, the dinosaur movies, as I like to call them, 1 million years BC and the Valley of Guanji. On Saturday, we get into the first of 2 days of the Sword and Sandal, well, 3 days really, Sword and Sandal movies, which are chock full of animated monsters. We'll start, and we'll do this rather in chronological order of these. The other four that I just mentioned, we'll set those aside in our minds because they are from various times. But 20 Million Miles to Earth, 5761 for Mysterious Island, 66 1 million years BC, 69 Valley of Guanji. But we're kind of Are we back? Okay, there we go. Not sure why that died out there. I wonder if it is worth attempting to, pardon me just one moment while I try something here with the audio. I don't think I've been going that long with the audio, but I think I can keep these going while they're plugged in, so there's no sense in using them wirelessly if I don't have to, right? Anywho, so 57 through 69 on those first four, but we kind of reset the clock. We go back to close to the beginning. 20 Million Miles to Earth was 57. The next film was the next year, The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad in 58. So second oldest milestone movie. We'll call it that. Like the fourth big project for Harryhausen. Um, 58. It wasn't until 63, after Mysterious Island, that we get Jason and the Argonauts. Right? And that one uses the sort of legend slash historical tale of Jason and his Argonauts, his seafaring warriors going to retrieve the Golden Fleece and all of the monsters they run into along the way. There are some liberties taken, but who's to say? The tale's so old and has been told so many different times. It's changed a lot even before Hollywood existed. So we're not going to hold Harryhausen or Schnurr or any of his gang um, to hold their feet to the fire over the story elements, right? What do we got next on Sunday? The Golden Voyage of Sinbad and Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger. Let me just back up for 1 second and just say, I really do think of Jason and the Argonauts as practically a Sinbad movie. They're cut from the same mold, that one heroic adventurer, the fact that they're both seafaring adventurers, because all of this stuff takes place around the Mediterranean, or a legendary world that supposedly existed around the Mediterranean. So there's a lot of parallels there. So I often think of Jason the Argonauts as the second of four Sinbad movies in a way. The Golden Voyage of Sinbad, another wonderful one. More great creatures. What a great time. Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger, 1977. We got 73 for Golden Voyage, 77 for Eye of the Tiger. At this point, um, we're looking at the last three movies. Valley of Gwangi came out in 69, and then we've got 4 years to Voyage in 73, 4 more years to Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger in 77, and then we're right on top of Clash of the Titans. Then in 81, his last major motion picture, and one arguably that people know the best, right? That's the one that I think a lot of people not only grew up with, that are gamers, at least as I hear it. So many people that I know that are gamers now are people that started in the late 70s, so they would have maybe just missed Eye of the Tiger, but they know Clash of the Titans. I guarantee you that. And if you grew up in the 80s, um, probably more so than any of the Sinbad movies or any of the other previous movies, Clash of the Titans was one of those that I think got heavy rotation, heavy airtime, lots of television. It was on television a lot. So I think that accounts for why so many people know it and know it so well and are so enamored with it and remember it so fondly. But of course, if you are familiar with Clash of the Titans and you see any of the other movies uh, that included work by Ray Harryhausen, special effects, then you recognize them instantly for what they are. And they are definitely awe-inspiring, no matter what age you are, although certainly they catch you in a very special place when you're a youngster. And that does not sound like a sentence I want quoted out of context. So pardon me for saying it that way. Anywho, Clash of the Titans will be the last one. That one will be discussed on Monday. And I think for these next 5 days, the main part of our discussion will be on locations, but mainly on monsters. Um, I don't know that we'll discuss story as much, although story elements definitely, because I'm looking at these as a DM, and as a DM, one of my main approaches to sandbox DMing, as I do, is to seed a setting with story elements. I mentioned this yesterday. I've mentioned it before. I believe that story is not something you create while you game, except as happenstance. Um, Whatever happens during a game session becomes the story you tell later. You don't set out to tell a specific story. What you do is you interact with a setting through your player characters, and whatever happens is the story of the game. Are we narrators as DMs? I don't really think so. I don't think of it that way. We are adjudicators to make sure that the game goes fairly and successfully and consistently. We are facilitators. We are neutral arbiters. We are referees when we are dungeon mastering or game mastering in the case of non-D&D systems. And we are presenting a world that is full of story elements with which the players, through their characters, can interact. And what we see, what comes out of that, no matter what it is, for good or for bad, for exciting or for boring, doesn't make any difference. That's the story that gets told. All we can do as neutral arbiters is to listen to the actions that are being described as being taken by the player characters when the players express them, ask questions if we don't understand them, make sure there's some clarification where there are things that are vague, and then think up as many possibilities as we can and mentally sort of assign them any number of variables and percentages statistically that they could be likely outcomes of the actions being expressed, randomize that, or if it's obvious, I'm going to tie my shoe. Okay, well, maybe you'll snap a lace. Is that what we want to focus on? Probably not. All right, your shoe is tied. I'm not going to roll a die for that, right? But where there is some chance and there are multiple likely outcomes, it is good to randomize that stuff, let it happen, see what happens, because it is in the not knowing that makes it more immersive, that makes, we hear so much about player agency, but what makes that player agency actually meaningful is when there are risks taken that have potential consequences that are real within the game world. So it's important to have all of those things in a game, but it's important also to recognize that the story doesn't get told before the game. The game comes first, and through the game, a story emerges. That's how I run games. You can run them any way you want. But if you're playing at my table, fair warning, that is how things are going to happen. Anywho, we've talked a bit about campaigns then, and how does Harryhausen figure into it? Well, as we were saying, these movies are so inspiring because they are chock full of tropes and story elements that we can cut clippings off of and replant within our own settings, within our own campaigns. We can throw these various obstacles in front of our PCs as they run through their little lives and see if they want to crawl under them or jump over them or run around them or turn around and run back the other way. Nothing wrong with running away if you want to extend the life of a player character by some measure, right? All right. Well, that I think is a good place to end it. We talked about what's coming up for the next 5 days. We're looking at two, and one movies that we'll be spending some time with. Tomorrow, we'll be looking at stuff from 20 Million Miles to Earth and Mysterious Island. We'll be reviewing those in a sense as a DM and talking about what we can take from them. Mainly, we'll be looking at monsters, we'll be looking at setting, we'll be looking at story elements, and we'll be figuring out where we're going to go from there. And then we'll talk about more movies throughout the weekend as we close in on Monday, the 29th, Harryhausen Day. I want to thank everybody for being here today, for popping into the old chatteroo. All my followers, I appreciate it. Don't forget, if you are a follower and you chime in during an episode in the stream chat, you are automatically entered into the weekly giveaway. The last 2 weeks we have given away a badge entry to Virtual Gamehole Con, which is coming up the end of October, beginning of November. We're looking forward to that. It's a nice little prize because it's one that you can win or receive from anywhere in the world at no additional cost to me. Does that sound a little mercenary? It's just nice to be able to have more gamers at the virtual table when the time comes, right? I want to thank you all for being with me today. Thank you, too, if you're catching up with this on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up. Maybe make a comment about how the show's going. Sure, shout it out. Congrats on your 100th episode of the OK Grognard Show. Well, thank you, I said to myself, for congratulating myself. There could not be anything more self-serving, except that I'm going to enjoy a very beautiful day here in beautiful Lake Geneva. Bye-bye for now.